Hello, my name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you this week about Vedic astrology, its place in how it predicts events in the world, and how it reflects your life personally. I've been a Vedic astrologer for roughly 35 years, and I do readings, I give lessons, I also uh, give suggestions for timing of events and things like that. These are paid services, so if you want to know the costs or what other services I provide, you can contact me at 508 525 0001, or you can email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. That's my name, the letter G, at gmail.com. Okay, that's the simplest way to get in touch with me. I do have sites on Facebook, Instagram, and X, but this is really the fastest and the most convenient way to you can access me. You can also access me on WhatsApp if you have that service. Again, the phone number is 508 525 0001. I do answer my calls or I get back to you very quickly. So this week has been really interesting because we've had a lot of changes. We had the Marjorie Taylor Greene resignation uh, in the United States. And so I'm trying to get the chart up to show you right now. So we had the Marjorie Taylor Greene resignation in the United States. We had President Trump essentially, um, I would say nullifying is the right word, all the executive orders that were signed by AutoPen under the Biden administration. I have no idea what the fallout from that's going to be. We're going to see a lot of really irritated people, I'm sure. Uh, and um, and again, there will obviously be court challenges to this. But I thought it was very interesting. And a lot of this has to do, if you'll notice in this chart that I'm sharing with you right now, Saturn is finally direct. So pressure that had been building up for months is really starting to be released in a very Saturnian way. And when I say Saturnian way, essentially Saturn is calls for repaying of debts, penalties. So if you had, let's say, some things that were forgotten about by various people over the past few months, be prepared for them to bring them up again or to get them resolved or get on your case about getting things done. We also had a change earlier this week in the Venus moved into the same sign as Mars and the Sun. So Venus changed signs. So that was around 5 days ago. And Mercury miraculously today turned direct. So we have an interesting time in that we have Jupiter, who's just moving past its stationary direct status. It went retrograded uh, last week, or within the past 2 weeks, excuse me, and is still in what I would call a slow speed. So, so again, one of the things I've also noticed about Jupiter, so Mercury means communications will be more direct and more quick. Justice or the move towards judgment will be faster, but there will be court delays because Jupiter is retrograde. And also, one of the things you'll see is people changing positions that they've held for a long time. Jupiter retrogrades, I've never seen it not produce in an individual chart a person who is somewhat contrarian or who holds a minority viewpoint on something. Um, I personally think those viewpoints can be very valuable. Um, it's so if you have, let's say, a person who has a Jupiter retrograde, everybody will say, well, so and so is the greatest. And the retrograde person will say, well, yeah, they're great, but what about when they did this? Or what about this other person? Or what about that? And actually, I think a Jupiter retrograde allows you to see other possibilities rather than conventional wisdom. So sometimes it can be annoying, to be quite honest, because Jupiter retrogrades can bring up all kinds of exceptions to the rule. So Jupiter is all about the rules. It's all about what we've been doing traditionally for a long time. Jupiter retrograde is about saying, yeah, but what about the exceptions to the rules? What about the exceptions to this event or that event? And I think even looking at the Trump action this week, that's really, I've never heard of anything being done like that before, but also I've never heard of an auto pen being used to sign things like stays of execution or even executive orders. So this doesn't only affect, so the auto pen reversal that Trump put into effect doesn't only affect the stays of execution that have held people back, or that have not held people back, excuse me, that's the wrong expression, that have been implemented, but um, it also negates any policy executive orders that were instituted through use of the auto pen. And so again, we don't know, to be completely honest, we don't know which executive orders, or at least I don't know which executive orders were authorized by auto pen. Number one, number two, whether or not Joe Biden knew they were being executed by auto pen, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead and do it." You know, which, and uh, three, exactly how this will affect current policy in place. So this is kind of it's messy, and I think the other thing about it is uh, we have the tariff situation, which could be messy if the Supreme Court decides that the tariffs were instituted illegally and they have to be given back. That would mean billions of dollars would have to be returned to the affected countries or to the affected payers of the taxes. So, so again, we're in for, uh, I would say, a messy few months. Um, However, with Saturn going direct, a lot of the internal workings, like projects that have been promised, uh, will actually start to take place. Uh, and also, it will increase uh, the speed of um, things like activities in other countries which are trying to limit people's access over borders. And like I've been telling folks for a long time, this pushback against open borders hasn't only affected the United States. A lot of European countries, Poland, Sweden, um, Ireland, England, Italy, Japan has been pushing back against it as well. So all these things have this kind of so it's kind of an international movement now. The fellow in Brazil, Bolsonaro, I believe was his name, was convicted of, um, I think it was attempting to overthrow the government in Brazil. So that did finally occur. Uh, the other the other things that happened in the news were there have been threats of violence against policemen and ICE agents and those kinds of things, and those have happened over the past. Actually, the National Guard was shot, which is a different matter. But basically, and there have been more ICE protests popping up. So this is the Venus Mars Sun conjunction. So people are kind of like at odds with the government. The Comey trial got reversed, but or it got thrown out, but uh, there's certainly a strong probability it will be appealed, and they'll probably try to do it again. Um, the Letitia James charges were reversed because the appointment wasn't made in what the judge regarded to be a legal fashion. And the judge actually added language into the statute that was cited. So and you can look that up. It's not something I made up. Uh, bec because the language said the state court can appoint, and she added, I believe it was a she. She added the state court and only the state court. So it's I'm not a lawyer. I can't interpret these things properly, but that sounds a little bit like so that may be what the statute means, but I'm not qualified to say that. But there was additional language inserted, and so there's just a lot of confusion going around. But I mean, right now we only have one major retrograde happening if you don't count the outer planets because Uranus is retrograde too. And let me just see if Neptune is. Yes, Neptune is as well. But I tend not to use those too much in my analysis because I tend to like the strict um, integrated Vedic astrology system as it was developed and written about through the years. Because um, it's essentially a logical construct. And I while I'll use Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto occasionally to clarify things, I don't get any more mileage from them than I do from looking at Rahu being hemmed in, being in Aquarius, causing the same kinds of things. K2 uh, in the moon, in the sun sign, in the sign of the sun, causing disruption in government. Rahu in Aquarius causing disruption among popular causes and among technocrats. There was a study that just came out from Meta, which in which found that people were less happy when they were engaged in social media than when they weren't engaged in social media. So I think that all these things are like um, and there are movements right now for third parties in the United States. There have been several third parties which have popped up in England, Germany. I'm not sure about France. France has, and also talking about larger conflicts, there does seem to be at least the dawning of a ceasefire in Israel. The ceasefire has been agreed to, but and also there seems to be the dawning of the ceasefire in Ukraine and Russia, but now Russia is being contentious about it. And a lot of people are criticizing the ceasefire because it puts um, Ukraine back to the position it was basically at the start of the war. It just cedes all the territory that Putin originally wanted. Now, the weird thing about this particular ceasefire is we could have had this back in 2022 before the war uh, really progressed. But interestingly enough, we have um, so we have this kind of like obstinacy developing, and that's Rahu and Aquarius. Okay, so I have something, but I want more. I want more. So essentially, Rahu is in what's called, um, or not really what's called, but it's in Purvabhadrapada, which is close to Satabhishak, which is the sign of the deposed king. So you may see some depositions coming over, and I don't mean court depositions, but deposing of rulers over the next uh, year or so. Again, it'll be amplified because of Rahu going to Satabhishak, which it will do in a few months. Um, but right now, K2's at Purva Falguni Nakshatra, which is one of the prosperous nakshatras, but as we have seen, the unemployment rate seems to be rising, the economy seems to be in a bit of trouble, um, and prices do seem to be rising, although not all prices are rising, and the inflation rate is far lower than it was a couple of years ago. But I would be lying if I said they weren't rising. But the rate is not nearly what it was in 2022, 2023. But again, so you're seeing this fracturing of parties on both sides. It's a bit more obvious. Um, it's actually obvious on both sides. So you're seeing a lot of right wingers or a lot of conservatives and Republicans tending to disagree with Trump and disagree with each other, mainly over matters connected with Israel and with foreign intervention. And you're seeing a lot of Democrats uh, drawing flack because of their some of them not going far enough to fight uh, against the current administration. So this will be an interesting few months. And like I said, I am tending to think it's going to get a lot worse in March, mainly because of the United States K2 separated. Now, one chart I did want to look at just a little bit. So let me just do an analysis. Moon Saturn is going to be kind of a tough week. It's not starting off too well. So it's giving kind of a pessimistic vibe. That'll be over by tomorrow. But that's the Moon Saturn conjunction. But today it's giving kind of a pessimistic outlook on things. Jupiter's aspecting the sign, so that's good. Jupiter's aspecting Saturn and keeping it under control. So it's making people a little bit more optimistic than they would be otherwise. Um, and so, again, not a bad week overall, but again, some legal issues, some recurring legal issues. Jupiter's also aspecting Sun, Mars, Venus, so it's going to be tough to defeat the government, even if you try to, even if murders or violence are involved, at least for the next 2.5 weeks or so. And that's because the sun uh, is at the midpoint in Scorpio. I am expecting to see some major disruption around December 15th through December 30th. Which sounds horrible because that's right around the holidays in the United States, but that is what I do see. And Mars, so there's a lot of fighting going on. Mars is close to answering that sign as well. So again, within about 2 weeks, we can expect to see a lot of disruption, I think, a lot of legal disruption especially, but also maybe even some territorial attacks. And also, we have, so I'll look at the eclipses next week probably, but um, also K2, Jupiter is moving. He's going to be changing signs within a couple of weeks, so that should help the United States chart out a lot, and it'll help out prosperity quite a bit. But the retrograde is going to last for about at least another 4 months. So Jupiter retrogrades tend to bring up all kinds of exceptions, all kinds of counter arguments and arguments. Um, but the general trend is still I'm seeing um, the current president getting almost all of what he wants over the next few months. After March, it'll be tougher. Um, the other thing is um, we have, let's see what else we have this week. Rahu is a heavy expenditure week again. Yeah, it shows up. Um, Overall, most people's luck is good, but it'll feel like there's a lot of pressure on you. And so let's go to one chart which I have been um, wrongly reporting on over the past few weeks, and I want to correct that. Now, I can make an argument that what I used for the chart of India was okay because I had Jupiter in the first house, and for Brigu astrology, Jupiter is usually the most important planet for Brigu astrology in terms of transits, progressions, and things like that. But the correct chart is actually a Taurus rising chart. And so I may have been under too much stress that the first week I put it up, or just not thinking properly. And Saturn is in the third house in the India chart, Venus, Mercury, Moon. So there is, and Mars is in the second house. So even though the country um, is very it's actually a very what I would call progressive chart. And what I mean by progressive is that it wants to expand its material possessions. It wants to move its way forward and create technology and create all kinds of influence on the outside world. And it'll do it somewhat aggressively because Mars is in the second house. Moon, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury are in the third house, so there's a lot of strong desires in this chart. K2's in the seventh house. It has allies it can't trust. It's got basically India sort of has to rely on itself as a birth chart because it has these changes of allegiances. So for a while they were allied, for a short while they were allied with Russia. Then they wanted to work with China, and China essentially said, no, we want this land, we want this land, we want this land. And they also had a period where there was um, a kind of a dictatorship in India around the early 1970s with Indira Gandhi. And also there are local scandals. Jupiter is in Libra. This is not a bad combination for this chart. Basically, what it does is it makes um, India forms partnerships quickly, and it's a very intelligent country by Rahu being placed in the first house. Rahu actually gives a lot of intelligence in the chart. The North Lunar Node gives a lot of, especially technological knowledge, but other types of knowledge as well. But right now, if we're looking at K2's in the fourth house, so there is some danger of instability in government. Rahu's in the 10th house. There is some dissatisfaction with um, other politicians around the world. And where Saturn's in the 11th house, this can cause India's economy to slow down just a little bit. And if we look at Jupiter is in the third house, so again, strong time for desires. Financial growth will resume within a few months. Our financial growth will improve, not resume, it will improve within a few months. And we have right now, um, entered a Mars Mahadasha on September 11th, 2025. So that kind of implies, so this Mars is not badly placed. The Lord of the second house is in the third house. It's not really hemmed in by malefics. Uh, Rahu doesn't count in that equation normally, but it will be looking for more material resources, more status, more um, luck. You will have more luck. It will have a few more enemies, though, as well. So it has to be careful who it trusts. And if we're looking at the Mars subperiod, there's been, I've seen, and again, this is just spot checking, there's been a bit more violence in India than normal, a bit more political violence than normal in India since the Mars Mahadasha started. So that would make sense. Um, and that can bring some difficult results between December 15th, excuse me, and December 23rd. So hopefully nothing horrible will happen during that time span. The Venus subperiod should bring some good financial growth to India, and the January 16th period level, January 16th through January 23rd, should bring some dominance from the government. January 23rd through February 4th should bring some desire for change in the government. Um, Between February 4th of 2026 and February 22nd of 2027, you're going to see India go through, I would say, a big change in both government and in public policy. And there'll be a really strong push on advancing its military, on advancing its desire for more power. And so I'm not saying India will be the villain here, but there'll be a little bit of panic, mainly from external sources or foreign countries. Okay, so that's a short presentation of India. But I wanted to make that right. So whenever I use this chart again, I will not make the mistake I did before. So let's look at the chart for, oh yeah, and by the way, I remember saying, I distinctly remember saying volcanoes in the last week. And there was a volcano in Eritrea or Ethiopia, which hadn't exploded for like 10,000 years. So this was kind of interesting to me because I mentioned it off the top of my head. I think I didn't deliberately identify Ethiopia. But again, we're going to see some kinds of elements like that happening over the next few months. And it's mainly because of Saturn essentially bearing down and Rahu releasing energy in the chart, and K2 also releasing energy. So just bear that in mind. It doesn't mean, let's say, like Yellowstone Park is all of a sudden going to blow up in that massive volcano that's out there. It's not that nasty a combination. But again, we can prepare for more volcanic activities, more earthquakes. So let's look at the month for the individual signs. I want to look at the United States chart just for a second. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. because I have some stuff to do today. United States chart. Oh yeah, that was a chart I was going to look up was Germany, but I didn't do that, did I? Well, see. So I'm not going to show the screen. So, so I only ever take the most recent government for a chart, and I'll answer that this in a few seconds. So I found it. All right, so the U.S. has that Rahu Moon conjunction. Saturn's in the fourth house. It shakes establishment figures. Um, yeah, we're in a Saturn subperiod right now, which can indicate slightly declining fortunes or difficulty people have in finding jobs. And Saturn's aspecting this entire cluster of planets in the seventh house, so it gives trouble with allies during its subperiod. And right now, trouble with media between November 26th and December 16th. December 16th to December 24th, some possibility of violent um, activity. Horrible close to the holidays. There was a shooting at one of the shopping centers I saw on the news. And December 24th to January 17th, not necessarily a bad period. Um, and so let's go January 17th to January 24th. Time of government dominance, pretty much. Uh, January 24th to February 5th. Um, the moon's up, so some panic or some population panic. February 5th, 2026 to February 14th, 2026. We have a Mars subperiod, so some violence is indicated there. February 14th to March 7th is a Rahu subperiod, and Rahu is located in the eighth house. So again, some more media manipulation there. March 7th through March 27th. Um, Essentially, this is not a bad period. This gives some increased growth to the United States. And the K2 period, I'm not quite as pessimistic about the K2 period as I was before. Could mean spikes, but uneven economic recovery between now and June 22nd, all the way really up until election day. But you should see some economic recovery during that time. Um, and also some rolling back of restrictions, but against a lot of political violence, unfortunately. And actually, I'm thinking that may play into um, the incumbent's hands because um, basically, if there's more violence from the opposing side, you'll have more calls for law and order, and that's typically been the way it's been in the United States. But we'll see what happens. Um, the other thing is, so let's go over here. Let me see if I can pull up Germany's chart just for a quick minute. Now, this is the 1949 chart. Let's pull this up really, really fast, as I'm kind of curious as to what's happening in Germany. This is May 24th, 1949. All right, I can get that mouse to move there. 24, 1940. I'll probably put a proper gap there. Um, the time is midnight, Bonn, Germany. So they just took the easy way out, but that's fine with me. Oops. There you go. I'll make Germany, oh, I'll leave Germany female. Okay, so he should be seeing the chart of Germany on the wall. Saturn in the first house, very physically conservative country. K2 is running through Saturn. They've had to raise their debt ceiling, an unpopular move. Um, Jupiter's in Capricorn. So right now, and I'm sorry, Germany is in Jupiter Venus subperiod since April 1st of 2025. So Venus is in its own sign in Taurus. That usually gives a great deal of wealth. So Germany, as we know, is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Is the economic powerhouse of the European Union, definitely. And I think the fourth largest economy, I want to say it's the fourth largest economy in the world. That could have shifted a little bit since I last looked. Um, let's see now. And it could be fourth, fifth, or sixth, but it's definitely in the top 10 countries. Um, so Saturn's, so almost like the United States, it has a dominance factor of Saturn being prominently placed in the chart. Um, but it's in Leo, so again, it's going to be very stubborn about certain things. It's aspecting the first house lord, though, so that makes it an incredibly disciplined country. Mars, Rahu, Moon can give political life there, can make political life there a bit unstable. This is not a reunification table. I view this as being the real birth. The reunification was really an absorption into this particular governmental structure. And one, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, so the Mahadasha is kind of poor since 2017. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because it's the fifth floor of politics located in the sixth house of struggle and is debilitated. So, so essentially since 2017, Germany's politics have been open to question. They've been struggling a little bit. That'll continue for quite a few more years, really until 2033. The Jupiter-Venus period is usually Jupiter-Venus subperiods or Venus-Jupiter subperiods are usually problematic. They create a lot of problems for people. And hello,
Hi, Karen. This is Bill from the Greenville Ferals. How are you?
I'm good. Well, one second. I need to stop something. Okay, so that was a call. That was hopefully not too much information on it. So at least from this chart, this is why German politics are in the state they're in today, where you have, well, essentially what they're calling a right-wing party, or the AFD party coming up, but the debilitated Jupiter indicates their politics are going to be screwed up, and also their economy to a certain extent. Although the economic structure of Germany is very strong, the economy is going to be screwed up for a bit further. But I do want to have this information out for when we look at this chart, at these charts in the future. So let's go back to the chart for today, for now. And we'll look at your individual birth charts and look at the map of the world. So basically, we have in Aries, for Aries, so these are the individual birth charts. April 15th through May 15th is Aries, rising sun or moon. Actually, that's the sun sign, but individually, if you know your Western chart, um, you can push it back almost by a whole sign unless you were born after the 15th of the month. Then you retain your birth sign. So so essentially, um, this does indicate continued high expenses for the sign, often connected with home or family, uh, or maybe even connected with education. K2 children will still be problematic. That'll be going on for about another year. Mercury relationship life will be okay. It'll be heavy on communication and heavy on banter and what I would call exchange or bargaining. And this sign will seem very appealing to other signs this particular week, and probably into the next couple of weeks, because we have Mars in the eighth house. And but again, it isn't a good time to get into relationships for this sign. Rahu is in the 11th house, so there will be gains, but not gains enough to satisfy the the cash demands or outlets. This isn't a bad time. It's good for education. It's good for unexpected luck, but financially, it's not really a good time for Aries. Now, again, this could change based upon your moon or your rising sign, so that's why you have to be careful with these weekly projections. For Taurus, this is May 15th to June 15th. Taurus ruler is Venus. It has a lot of planets in the seventh house. So there'll be a lot of fights or arguments with relationship partners, but also a temptation to stray or get involved in extramarital relations. I'd advise Taurus not to do that. There's a little bit of a temptation for Aries to do that as well, but not as strong as Taurus. And I think one of the things is this sign can expect financial gain because of hard work, strong desire for learning. K2 home life will be a little bit disrupted. Rahu is in the 10th house. Career life will be unsatisfying but rewarding. And Saturn's in the 11th house. So again, there's a lot of pressure on this sign this week. So a lot of work pressure on the sign and pressure from friends. For Gemini, Gemini lasts between June 15th to July 15th. Jupiter is in the second house, will give financial gains to this house and increased luck. The Gemini has strong courage this week, a lot of courage this week, strong courage, a lot of courage this week, and actually a lot of luck in terms of dating. But it will feel like it has a lot of enemies and a lot of court issues going on, and maybe even some illnesses. Jupiter is the lord of the seventh house. So again, good time for meeting new people relationship wise. and financially you'll start to experience some growth within about 2 weeks' time. Rahu is in the ninth house, so this will give strong publicity to the individual. And Saturn and Moon are in the 10th house, so they'll be gained through hard work, and also public image will be strong. For Cancer, so that Gemini goes from June 15th to July 15th. Cancer goes from July 15th to August 15th. Jupiter's in the first house in Cancer, and it's the exalted position, but it will start to rethink some of the things it wants. Jupiter's in the same. Jupiter has K2 in the second house, so this can bring unexpected gains or unexpected increases in financial position, but you'll have to watch out for thefts or people trying to con you. Mercury's in the third house, is in the fourth house, excuse me, and this indicates good negotiation skills, especially on the home front. Fifth house indicates some problems with children. Uh, Rahu's in the eighth house, so unseen enemies or people attacking you from behind closed doors or gossiping about you. Moon is in the ninth house along with Saturn. This particular combination makes relationship life a little bit easier. People will be more consistent or more stable in relationship matters. So overall, this isn't a bad week for Cancer. Just remember to stay out of fights with children and also to watch out for people trying to steal from you. For Leo goes from, I think I did Gemini. Yes, I did work. Is strong. Cancer, luck is strong. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah. So good communications at home, problems with children. Yeah, enemies from behind the scenes. Okay, I did Cancer. Leo has K2 in it. Again, that to me constitutes a kind of a Raj Yoga because uh, K2 this is K2's birth sign, basically, in the chart. Um, but, and the Lord is in the fifth house, or the Lord is in the fourth house, excuse me, as Lord of the fourth and the ninth. So this is actually a relatively good placement for K2. So essentially the sign will be very strong. So this goes from August 15th to September 15th. And this sign will be much more communicative, and you'll have Sun, Mars, and Mercury. Difficult time for relationships with other people, though. Definitely not a good time to get involved in new romantic relationships. Uh, Rahu is involved in the seventh house, and this will give wife or relationship partner more independence, more freedom, more courage. Moon is in the eighth house, and that can indicate some problems from the public and also from people who are more conservative or more reserved than you are. Jupiter's in the 12th. That's a good position basically for saving money. Okay. For Virgo is September 15th through October 15th, has Mercury in the second house, so speech is better for this sign. You have a cluster of planets in the third house, very good for financial growth and also for fulfillment of desires. So there's a strong desire element here. Rahu is in the sixth house, and Rahu is in the sixth house, so it can give minor health issues, especially connected with kidneys or bladder. Seventh house Lord is seventh house has Saturn, Moon in it, so relationship partners will be sad or unhappy with life. Um, that'll pass, but they'll tend to be a trend. They'll tend to look at the negative side of things for a while longer. Um, Jupiter's in the 11th house, good for financial gains, especially from home projects. So it's generally a good K2's in the 12th house, good for spiritual growth for Virgo. For Leo, so basically not a bad month not a bad week, but not a bad month for Virgo either, but just a little bit, be a little careful about fights. For Libra, Mercury's in the first house, so communication skills will improve with that particular placement. Uh, Mars is in the second house. That's actually a good placement for money, for financial growth. All these planets make a kind of a Dana Yoga for Libra, so this month and this week should be good for financial growth. Rahu's in the fifth house. Again, there's a strong desire to express yourself creatively or politically um, or even artistically with this particular placement. And there's also a feeling like you don't have enough learning or you don't know enough. You're very curious this coming year. Moon is very adventurous this coming year. Moon is in the sixth house along with Saturn. Again, we have some problems connected with urinary tract, digestion, those kinds of things. Jupiter's in the 10th house, good for career growth, good for career recognition. And K2's in the 11th house. Watch out for friends, watch out for people who claim to be friendly to you. It isn't to make Libra paranoid, but there will be some attempts to um, replace you or displace you if you're not careful. So it's just really be careful what you say to people. Be cautious. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to be a pushover, but be cautious. And people will try to steal advice from you as well. So be careful about that. For so that's October 15th to November 15th for Libra. Between November 15th and December 15th, we have Scorpio. Now there's a cluster of planets in Scorpio, Sun, Venus, Mars. So this is three planets in that sign. Um, will we make it to four planets in that sign? Yes, we will, within about 4 days. So Mars will be right at the edge, though. To be honest with you, so Mars won't be that strong. But this will give what they call in Vedic astrology a sannyasa yoga. So we'll have four planets located in one sign. So it's a good combination for preparing to um, give up certain things or reform your life, basically. Sun, Venus, Mars, strong sensual desires when Venus and Mars are in the same sign, but they're rather far apart. And let's see now, we have Rahu, Mercury's in the 12th house, so that's good for, again, for saving money, especially over the next week. And Rahu's in the fourth house, so we have um, basically dissatisfaction with home life. Some problems with kids are indicated, or creative activities are indicated. Some slowdown or some hesitation to undertake them. Uh, Jupiter is in the ninth house. Basically, that's a good placement, even though the ninth house is called a Bhadika house for Scorpio rising. It's really not that horrible to have Jupiter in the ninth house aspecting the first. K2's in the 10th, lack of recognition in career, which shows up often for this particular sign. For Sagittarius, this is December 15th to January 15th. We have a cluster of planets in the 12th house, so that indicates heavy expenses for this particular sign. Rahu's in the third house, strong desire to explore new things, discover new things. Saturn and Moon are in the fourth house, so that indicates the desire to slow down and move backwards, or however backwards is depicted with my hands. And Jupiter's in the eighth house, so this can indicate some problems with communications or judgment. Judgment is often you'll have to sit and think about things before you can really decide on them. especially over the next 2 weeks. K2's in the ninth house. Unexpected increases of luck, though, uh, during this particular placement, during this particular week. So the K2 over here isn't bad, but again, you'll have to watch out for people, especially advisors, giving you bad advice or encouraging you to invest in things that you feel are not safe. So that's just my particular bent on it. For Capricorn, Capricorn is January 15th through February 15th, and its Lord is in the third house, so strong desire, strong ambition for the chart. Rahu's in the second house, some anxiety about financial growth, but it will be achieved because we have Saturn in the third house. Jupiter's in the seventh house. Good time for making new business partnerships or engaging in new business partnerships with and also relationship life. K2 is in the eighth house. This isn't really a bad placement. It makes the person more interested in the mysteries of the universe or the mysteries of the world. Um, Mercury's in the 10th house, good for career growth, and we have a large cluster in the 11th house, good for financial gain for this sign, finally. Okay, so we have a lot of good planets in the 11th house bringing money into Capricorn. And Capricorn will be very happy to hear that. For Aquarius, Aquarius is February 15th, I'm sorry, yes, February 15th to March 15th. We have Rahu in the first house. There's an obsession with advancement or with mechanical items or new gimmicks and also with technological advancement. So this isn't a bad placement. And there's also a strong desire for social reform going into this sign. Saturn and Moon are in the second house, and I think that this particular placement is very good for financial growth, but it has to be slow and steady, not uh, quick and arbitrary. Jupiter's in the sixth house in its exalted sign, so this can bring legal problems to the sign if it isn't careful. And I'm not talking about major legal issues, but things like copyrights or people saying, "Hey, this belongs to me, not to you." We have a cluster of planets in the 10th house, so this sign is going to be working an awful lot this month. A great deal. Mercury is in the ninth house, which, as I said before, can be good for financial growth and also political luck. So that's politics with a small p and a large p. So it means personal politics and political life as we know it. For Pisces, the last sign on our galaxy, on our array of signs, this goes from March 15th to April 15th for those sun sign folks of you out there. And we still have Saturn in the first house. That's not going to go away soon. But the moon, as Lord of the fifth house, is in the first house, and the moon and Jupiter exchange signs. That produces a lucky Parivartana yoga for financial growth and also for unearned income. Although Saturn will tend to make you not want to spend it right away. So it's a good idea to hold on to money right now anyway. For the second house Lord is Mars, the Lord of the second house is in the ninth house, along with a cluster of very positive planets, all of which have to do with wealth and status. So again, we have a good combination for career success for this sign, but it will seem like a lot of work if I'm quite honest with you. And we have Jupiter in the fifth house, good for luck, as I've said before. Sixth house has K20. You have to watch out for problems with the intestines or problems with uh, um, digestion or digestive issues. And finally, Rahu's in the 12th house, so a lot of expenditures this week. So let's go to the time and space chart. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Close it. Yeah. All right. So the most important lines in this chart are we have Sun and Mars in the Aleutian Islands and in Hawaii. So there are still some problems with real estate in that part of the country. The government's still causing some problems. We have an ascendant line going through um, northwestern Canada, or a Mars rising line going through uh, Canada and entering in with a Mercury line over here. So there can be some devious politics going on in this region of Canada, which can extend down here, down to Vancouver. And also we have a Jupiter line intersecting a Mercury line. So you'll see Washington and Washington State and Oregon, and also parts of Northern California figuring prominently in the news over the next week. We have a Venus line running through, um, I believe I want to say that's Alberta, I'm not sure. And down into Utah, down into Idaho, Montana, Utah, and New Mexico. I'm sorry, Arizona, my apologies. And down into Mexico itself. So there's a Venus line. So this could mean heavy rains or some difficulty uh, with storms in this part of the country. There's a sun line running right through the middle of Alberta. I'm sure this is Alberta, or what's the other province? I think it's Saskatchewan out there. And the sun is moving through all the way down to Texas and Mexico. So the government will be exerting authority in that part of the world. And there may even be some fights or arguments in Texas, all the way through Montana, all the way up through Saskatchewan, and beyond. Let's see, no. So, and some danger of political violence in Nicaragua and um, Mexico. There's also a Rahu line coming up through here, just south of Louisiana, which can indicate either riots or general dissatisfaction with that part of the country. And the Rahu line goes up through, um, I believe that's Wisconsin, and all the way into Canada. So there'll be some kind of political scandal from Mexico all the way up through Louisiana, all the way up through Indiana, all the way up into Wisconsin and Canada. For there's a moon line running through close to Ottawa and close to Toronto and down near New York State, Pennsylvania, and down to Washington, D.C., and down to Virginia. So there can be changes in governmental positions in those parts of the country. This is also true in Cuba, also true to a certain extent in Haiti, and definitely down through Venezuela, um, Peru, and Chile, and Argentina. So there'll be some shifts in governmental authority. It doesn't necessarily mean the governor or the ruler is going to be deposed, but there'll certainly be a shift, maybe a shuffling of cabinets. Um, but the people will be very sad in those parts of the world as well. That's another factor to keep in mind. Jupiter line running through um, Guyana and Brazil. So that Jupiter line is in Cancer, so this won't affect things very much. Some possibility of flooding though in Guyana. Um, there's a Mercury line running through the Atlantic Ocean. Um, let's that really won't hit anything all that strongly. There's a Venus line, so this could bring rains to Azores and Cape Verde. And there's a sun line running through, a sun and a Mars line running through Western Africa. So there could be some danger of violence from the government in those parts, and also some government scandal in England, Ireland, Spain, France, Morocco, and all the way down through Mali and down just to the southern, um, down close to sub-Saharan Africa. Um, there's a Saturn line running through, a Saturn line and a Jupiter line running through. It looks like Belgium, from this chart. So this could indicate troubles for the European Union over the next week. Some people essentially saying they want to leave or get the heck out. Um, that's been coming for a few months, but it may actually maximize. And Libya and Algeria are both facing some changes in government. Italy has a Jupiter line running through it, so Italy's fairly lucky this month. Um, so is Germany. There's a moon line running through um, Greece. Um, looks like Albania and Romania to me, and down through down into Central Africa, all the way down to South Africa. So that moon line does mean change and what I would say disappointed populations. It starts in Sweden and goes all the way down through Poland, all the way down there. There's a Jupiter line running through Sudan and Egypt and down to Mozambique and into Madagascar. So basically, the Jupiter line brings expansion. It can mean growing economies. It can mean growing um, inflationary pressure to a certain extent in those countries. Uh, there are no lines in the Middle East or over Ukraine. So I'm going to assume that peace settlement's not going to move very far, or the peace settlements aren't going to move very far over the next week or so. I could be surprised. Um, but Mercury is passing over Iran, uh, down through Yemen, and into yeah, it's not really Afghanistan, uh, but it's affecting Afghanistan. And there's chances of a military dictatorship in both um, Pakistan and Afghanistan, or the military taking a stronger role. Um, there's a sun line running right through India, so there are no lines through Iraq, rats through Ukraine, but the Soviet Union does have a Mercury line running through it, so there'll be increased communication. Or not the Soviet Union, Russia. It used to be the Soviet Union, hasn't been for years. Um, zoom out, and here we go. So some flooding is possible in Pakistan and Afghanistan as well, given this placement. And there will be some governmental scandal in India, especially Eastern India, over the next couple of weeks, and also in Bangladesh and Ladakh, and also in Russia. Let's see now. The next few lines have a Saturn Rahu tilt to them, so this could bring some conflict between states like Thailand and China, Although I'm not expecting a shooting war, I'm expecting disagreements, maybe trade disagreements between Thailand, China, um, Myanmar, and let me just see, we have a Mars line running up close to um, Taiwan and China, so there may be some military activity up there. I hope not. There's a Jupiter line running through the Philippines, and that will make the Philippines a little bit more prosperous. And it's also running through Indonesia. Indonesia is kind of schizophrenic or of two minds in this chart. I'm not a psychologist, so I shouldn't use psychological terminology. Um, but basically, it's kind of a divided country because of the Saturn line over here and the Jupiter line over here. So part of Indonesia is doing well, part of Indonesia is doing really, really poorly. So at least from this chart, this looks okay to me. It doesn't look like there are going to be any major conflicts down there. Um, well, I didn't look at, so it doesn't look like there's going to be more earthquakes in Ethiopia, so that's good. Or more uh, volcanoes in Ethiopia. At least I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that for the people. And we did have that large fire in China. We have this Mars line over China. Um, was it China or India? I'm trying to think now. I can't remember which one. My apologies, folks. Um, and there's a Jupiter line running through Philippines, Australia. So Australians might become much more optimistic over the next time. And okay, so I think that's about it for this week. Let's look at Philippines. Philippines has a Rahu line going through it, so there is some governmental scandal going on over there. And over here we have a Sun line, so probably some scandal connected with the government in this part of the world right here. So this will be fascinating to see what happens over the next few months in these charts because I don't have a predisposition to second guess what the charts are showing me. So I'll just tell you what I can understand from the best to the best of my knowledge. Okay. If you would like to contact me for lessons or for readings, please, uh, it's 508-525-0001, 508-525-0001. And you can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. Thank you very much for your patience in watching this all the way through. And I'll be back next week. And in the meantime, I love you. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. And may God be with you. And namaste. Thank you very much. I love you all. I do appreciate you, each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. Bye, everybody.